Hey there, everybody. It's your girl, Barbie J, back with Tyler Perry's comedy drama, Zatima, Season 2, Episode 7, Mind Over Matter. Okay, this was a very interesting episode, I would have to say. And I think you all would agree with me because that whole therapy, talking to the doctor, and all of that stuff was pretty interesting. And it was funny how it kind of didn't sink into Fatima's mind. But let's just get it started right now with my recap review. But before we start that, if you haven't subscribed to my channel as of yet, please take a moment right now, hit the subscribe button, then hit the like button, which is the thumbs up button. Write a comment so we can have some dialogue about these episodes, and share if you feel it's worthy of being shared. Anyway, so it starts off with Fatima. She catching Zach using that side chick and then laughing at him, which I thought was pretty sad. I didn't think that was cool to laugh at him. You know, he's being humiliated by having to resort to a gadget to feed his sexual appetite when he has a fiance who's won't do it. I know it's too much for her, she said, or whatever, but at least she need to do it once a day or something, even if it's not 6 times or 2 times. Give him one time, I guess, to hold him over, because that's stuff that starts making people start looking at other people and other places, and then you get mad, but you know his sexual appetite, so don't go sending him to somebody else to get pleased or pleasured. You know what I mean? Anyway, so but I tell you one thing, I was so glad that she didn't open her big mouth and tell Angela what was going on when she called her back. I was like, hallelujah, thank you for not saying nothing. Anyway, so Zach goes to the barber shop to talk to Tony, who at first was acting really childish, saying that he thought the Zach attack was back. And he also let Zach know, somehow I forgot how that happened, but he let Zach know that he saw that video of what happened in the elevator. And Zach just brushed it off. But I'm like, how did that video get out? And how come only part of it got all out? Where's the part where he headbutt, what's his name, to the ground or whatever? So I don't know how even Angela got it to send it to Belinda. That's she messy anyway. So Zach discusses his issues and asks Tony not to act like Nathan and to never mention any of this to him. And Tony gave him his word. I was like, let's see how long that lasts. Anyway, but I feel Tony gave Zach some sound advice that he could use to make an honest decision about his life and his relationship. So Zach thanks him, and as he leaves the barbershop, he runs into Mr. Tyrone, who lets him know that, he needs to stop running to these young guys for advice, that he needs to talk to folks with some wisdom if he wants to get wisdom. So Zach is like, okay, Mr. Tyrone, then give me some wisdom. And he lets Zach know that he got a good girl because he hears Tony talking about her, but he also hears Nate talking about breaking them up. And Zach is like, damn, but he knew that. So he tells Zach not to be like Nate out there looking like a fool. And he questions Zach, asking, could he be the problem? And not Fatima, because he was like, Fatima's making it hard. He's like, you sure it's her, not you? So Zach says, I got some issues myself. And Mr. Tyrone said, yeah, both do, meaning him and Fatima. And he added not to be like himself, going through so many good women and then ending up like alone, basically, I guess. So Zach thanks him for the advice, and as he leaves, he tells Mr. Tyrone to stop smoking. It's bad for him. And Mr. Tyrone go, oh, these are vegan cigars. I'm like, Zach looked at him and shook his head like he crazy. And I just laughed. I'm like, and then Zach go, do they make those? And I'm like, duh. Anyway, so now Fatima shows up at Dr. Reed's office. I didn't like this part, and how coincidental that Paul just happens to be right there when she arrives at his friend's office. And I said, why is it that Zach doesn't know where, Fatima is right now? I think he thinks she's at work. But she doesn't know where he is either. I don't think she knows he's at the barbershop. But that was just way too coincidental that he happens to be there. That means Dr. Reed called him and said, yeah, Fatima's coming today. And then he ran over there to make sure he's there, standing at reception, waiting for Fatima to show up. So I didn't like that. So anyway, he goes, I think he's finishing up with somebody, so I'll introduce you to him. I'm like, why? She was there to meet the doctor on her own time and doesn't need you, Paul, to introduce them. You ain't the receptionist, It's like, we don't need you to do that. So then Fatima's back to doing that, apologizing to Paul about what Zach did, because Paul made a comment about maybe he might need a surgeon because he might have broke his jaw and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, you were the aggressor. You put your hands on him, on Zach first. And if anything, you should be apologizing to Fatima and to Zach for even putting hands on her man. Then he has the nerve to act like he's concerned about Zach ever putting hands on her. And Fatima shares too much once again with a man you just met 2 days ago, letting him know that Zach would never, because she shoot him. She shoots because she shoots or something like that. And then Dr. Reed comes out and the introduction is made, and he says, Paul said you were beautiful. And I'm like, is this the dating game? Like, why is that the first thing out of your mouth? Then Fatima's told that Paul said her visit might be an emergency. I'm like, wow. And Fatima's like, oh, really? And she's looking at Paul, and he tried to clean it up or whatever. So you got this man in your business, Fatima, and that's not cool at all. Then Paul gives Fatima his number so that she can, let him know how things are going. He really wants to stay in touch. And thank God, Fatima gave it back to him. So Fatima gets into the, office, and Dr. Reed lets her know that Paul's a good man. I'm like, okay. So, Paul is interested in her. So then he tells that he was divorced and remarried or something like that, and hoped that she wouldn't judge him because he's a therapist. But he said because he did the work, he realized that he and his first wife were not meant to be together. And that put, Fatima at ease a bit. But as Dr. Reed asks, how can I help you? Fatima wants Dr. Reed to talk to Zach, and she lets him know that he's not open to doing any sort of therapy, because he doesn't think there's a problem. And Dr. Reed clapped back with the, oh, sort of like you. And she's like, I'm good. I don't have a problem. It's all him. And once again, Dr. Reed writes down something on a notepad, which is Fatima's like, wonder why is he writing that down? And she's like, you ain't got to write nothing down about me. And he tells her just observations. And he lets her know that most of the men that he talks to, all of their women say they are the problem. I said, here we go. Then he also mentioned that some of the issues stem mainly from childhood and parent-child relations. And it's so funny because Fatima's like, oh, yeah, because him and his mother and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what's funny is that even after Dr. Reed shared this with Fatima, she still felt that she has no issues and that it's all Zach, just Zach. And I noticed that when Dr. Reed asked about couple therapy, she felt that if he just fixed Zach, that they would be fine. I'm like, wow, isn't this interesting? Anyway, so Dr. Reed wants to talk to both of them and doesn't know how he can if Zach won't come into his office. And Fatima's trying to be sneaky and invite him to dinner with her, Zach, Angela, and Bryce. Although Dr. Reed said, although he prefers the direct approach, he agreed to do this. So Fatima's like, how much will all this cost? And Dr. Reed said, let's get through dinner and then they can discuss. I hope he don't try to say, oh, don't worry about it. Trying to be, the good dude, like, what's his name? Like Paul. But I'll be honest, I don't see no doctors doing that, going to dinner like that. He got a wife at home. You don't go home with the patients or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, then Zach gets to his office and is met by Valerie and Bryce with a deal she thinks, will be great for them. So he's nice to Valerie and cool towards Bryce. So she tells him it's a developer who has a building which is 30% sold, but he's about to go bankrupt. So they need $6 million to get in on this deal. Zach says he doesn't have that amount of money. And then Bryce said, well, maybe, Zach could put in $2 million and I could put in $1 million. And Zach said he doesn't have it. So he tells Valerie that he'll think about it. And she tells him not to think too long. She leaves, and then Bryce is like, let's put our issues to the side and do this deal. Zach says that he doesn't have any issues. He just don't have the money and doesn't like being pressured into doing deals. So Bryce is getting upset with him and saying he got a thick head and all this stuff. And then says, you don't mind if I take this deal to Gary. And Zach said he can take it to anybody he wants. Then Zach lets Bryce know that he has been going through a lot and that this deal is not high on his list of priorities. And Bryce is having a little fit about it, and not realizing Zach is being honest. He's going through some stuff. Deal with it. But Zach doesn't. Now we have Angela back at Fatima's office, and she learns about Fatima's plan to have Dr. Reed come to her house for dinner. This way he can talk to both Zach and Bryce at the same time. So she asks Angela to help by calling Bryce and inviting him as well, so that she doesn't look as if she's lying. Angela wasn't sure at first about it, but then was on board with the deception, Yeah, she was down with it. So I'm glad that, Angela was covered up in this episode, y'all. Because she I'm sorry, but she was covered up. And I was like, yay, you're covered up, girl. So now we have Nathan and Tony showing up at Zach's office again. And Nathan is trying to blame his homeless situation on Fatima. And he's like, who else am I supposed to blame? And they both said in unison, you. That's your fault. Zach said, I told you Fatima ain't with the BS. And Tony added, and she stays strapped. So you lucky, bro, said old snap. Then Zach finds out that Tony betrayed his confidence and told Nate that Fatima still ain't giving him any. And talking about it came out by accident. And I'm sitting there going, see, he ain't no better than Nate in my eyes right now. So Nate is going to prove that the profile on that dating site is real. And he sends a text to that, a message to the person. And the person on the other side replies back, and they request to meet that profile, that Fatima profile person. And it says that they like to have sex in cars in public or something like that. It was so ridiculous. So when the person says they will meet in an hour, Zach told them to go ahead and get their feelings hurt because that's not Fatima. At that time, Fatima texts Zach and says she's going to be an hour late coming home from work. And Zach tells them that that's just a coincidence, but they didn't believe him. They wasn't even trying to. And Tony's acting just as bad as Nathaniel at Nathan. Why do I call him Nathaniel? And Nathan at this point. So Zach is like, whatever, don't y'all get catfish. And as they went out the door, Zach was like, hold up. He grabbed his jacket and he runs behind them fools. I said, he's so stupid. I said, that is not Fatima. But I want to say, when did Zach get an office with 2 walls of windows? I don't recall that. I don't even remember one window at first when they first got those offices. So that was interesting to see. I'm noticing they got chairs in the front right there where it used to be just a table. A table was there, like a credenza or something. Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all thought about this episode. It was really interesting. It was a good episode. Anyway, like I said, y'all let me know how y'all felt, and I'll see you in the next video. And please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. It's your girl Barbie J saying peace.